Can you imagine this? You have no home, you have no money, you have no job, and you have a small baby to take care of. Where do you sleep? Where do you eat? This was the life of one man. His name was Chris. Today, Chris is a millionaire. He is successful and he is happy. But his journey was very, very difficult. This is his story, and this story will change the way you think about problems. Let's begin.
Chris was born in 1954 in America. His childhood was not easy. His father left the family. His mother worked very hard. Chris grew up poor. He wore old clothes. Sometimes there was no food. But Chris had something special. He had a dream. He wanted a better life. He wanted to be successful. He wanted to help people. When Chris became a man, he got married. Soon he had a baby son. His son's name was Christopher. Chris loved his son very much. He worked hard to give his son a good life. But then everything changed. Chris lost his job. He had no money to pay rent. His wife left him. Now Chris was alone, just him and his baby son. No job, no money, no home. Can you imagine? You are alone with a small child. What do you do? Chris tried to find work. He walked from office to office. Every day he asked, "Do you have a job for me?" Every day people said, "No, sorry, we cannot help you." 1 month passed, 2 months, 3 months. Chris had no money for an apartment. He had no money for a hotel. So Chris and his son slept in strange places. Sometimes they slept in the subway station, on the cold floor. Sometimes they slept in a public bathroom. Chris locked the door. He held his son in his arms. Little Christopher didn't understand. He was just a baby. But Chris understood. He felt ashamed. He felt like a failure. Every night, Chris looked at his sleeping son and cried. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." But crying doesn't solve problems. Chris knew this, so he made a decision. "I will not give up," he said. "I will find a way." One day, Chris saw a man in a beautiful car. The man wore expensive clothes. He looked happy. He looked successful. Chris stopped him. "Excuse me," Chris said. "What is your job?" The man smiled. "I work in finance. I'm a stockbroker." "A stockbroker?" Chris asked. "What is that?" "I help people invest money. It's a good job. I make good money." That night, Chris thought about this. "I can do that job," he said to himself. "I can learn. I will try." The next day, Chris applied for a training program, a program to become a stockbroker. But there was a problem, a big problem. The program was 6 months long, and there was no salary, no money for 6 months. Chris had no home. He had no savings. How could he survive? His friends said, "Chris, this is crazy. You need money now. Find a normal job." But Chris didn't listen. "This is my chance," he said, "my only chance." So Chris started the training program. Every morning, he woke up early, very early. He and his son washed their faces in public bathrooms. Then Chris took his son to daycare. Then he went to work. He studied hard. He worked hard. He learned everything. But every night was the same difficult life. sleeping in the subway, sleeping in the bathroom. No home, no bed. Chris was tired, so tired, but he never stopped.
The 6 months were very difficult. Sometimes Chris had no food. His stomach hurt from hunger. Sometimes people laughed at him. Look at that man with a baby. He has no home. Sometimes Chris wanted to quit, to give up, to stop trying. One night, Chris sat on the subway floor. His son was sleeping in his arms. Tears fell from Chris's eyes. Why is life so hard? He thought. Will it ever get better? But then he looked at his son's face, so peaceful, so innocent, and Chris remembered why he was fighting. For you, he whispered. I'm doing this for you. The next morning, Chris woke up, and he continued. Day after day, week after week, month after month. Finally, the 6 months ended. It was time for the final test, time to see who would get the job. There were 20 people in the program, but there was only one job. Only one person would be chosen. Chris waited. He hoped. He prayed. Then, one day, the boss called Chris into the office. Chris's heart was beating fast, very fast. The boss looked at Chris. Then he smiled. Congratulations, Chris. You got the job. Chris couldn't speak. He couldn't breathe. I got the job? He said. Really? Yes, the boss said. You worked harder than everyone. You never gave up. The job is yours. Chris started crying, right there in the office. Tears of joy, tears of relief. After all those months of pain, after all those nights sleeping on the floor, finally, things were getting better. Chris ran to pick up his son from daycare. He hugged little Christopher tight. We did it, Chris said. We have a job. Soon we'll have a home, a real home. And Chris was right. Slowly, his life changed. First, he got an apartment. A small apartment, but it was theirs. No more sleeping in the subway, no more public bathrooms. Then Chris worked harder and harder at his job. He was excellent at his work. He helped many people. He earned more money. He got promoted. Years passed. Chris became very successful. He started his own company. The company became worth millions of dollars. Today, Chris Gardner is a millionaire. He gives speeches around the world. He wrote a book about his life. Hollywood made a movie about his story. But Chris never forgets where he came from. He never forgets those nights sleeping in the subway with his son. So, what can we learn from Chris's story? I think there are 3 important lessons. Lesson number 1. Your situation today does not decide your future. Chris was homeless. He was poor. But that was not his ending. That was just his beginning. Where you are today is not where you will be tomorrow if you work hard, if you don't give up. Lesson number 2. Difficult times make you stronger. Those 6 months were terrible for Chris. So much pain, so much struggle. But that experience made him strong. It made him tough. It made him never give up. When you face hard times, remember, this is making you stronger. Lesson number 3. Do it for someone you love. Chris could have quit many times, but he didn't. Why? Because he had his son. He was fighting for his son, for a better future. When you want to give up, think about the people you love.
fight for them. Now, I want to ask you something. What is your difficult situation right now? Maybe you have no money. Maybe you have no job. Maybe life feels too hard. I want you to remember Chris's story. If Chris could go from sleeping in a subway to becoming a millionaire, then you can overcome your problems too. You are stronger than you think. Your story is not finished yet. Don't give up. Keep trying. Keep fighting. Your breakthrough is coming. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope it inspired you. If you liked this story, please like this video. It helps me create more stories for you. And subscribe to this channel to get more stories like this. Remember, you are strong. You can do difficult things. See you in the next story. Keep believing. Keep trying. Goodbye.